Hey, what's up?
Do you find yourself using the same monsters in D&D over and over again?
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
Well, join us as we touch on 5 more underrated monsters for your stories and campaigns. Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Ian.
I'm your co-host, Brandon.
We hope to inspire you with creative content for you to bring with you on your next D&D adventure. What a great topic. We all know that the world of Dungeons and Dragons has hundreds, maybe even thousands of monsters for the Dungeon Master to choose from, right?
I mean, especially when you get into the past editions, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it
when
is
he sent
expansive.
me
Okay.
to the bestiary, I was like, holy shit.
Scroll.
Yep.
There's a lot of monsters.
Yep. Hence why today's topic is 5 underused monsters.
Yep. But we can often find ourselves using just the same monsters over and over. And honestly, I'm guilty of this too. I've done this. I think we all get our favorites, but there's a difference between favorites and then just using the same things over and over. So, for me, a goblin, a kobold, or even orcs, to name a few. I mean, I think we've all played in games that have those, right?
Well, they're classics.
Right. But does that mean that they're overused?
No.
Oh, I disagree.
They're overused a lot, especially goblins
Absolutely.
and orcs.
Like, I don't even see kobolds as much as I see the goblins and orcs.
I see goblins more than kobolds.
Yeah.
Okay. Although I think one reason for that is, as like a one person put it, goblins are like the one creature you can throw anywhere and you go, okay, this makes sense.
It fits really good. So,
Happen to be there.
there are so many other interesting monsters that are in the D&D lore and adventures, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and some of them are so cool.
I gotta say, when you think of D&D and someone brings up a monster like, oh, the 𝗕𝗂𝗃, it's like, oh, I know what that is, but I've never really seen one. You don't see it get played too often.
And how many of you guys seen the moon cow before?
That's the thing.
Exactly.
You're not joking?
No.
There is a cow level.
And
no,
we've got...
Well, I'm like, moon cow, that doesn't sound scary like that stuff. Like, holy crap, this thing's scary.
We got 5
Look at
monsters that we've chosen. I only recognize the last one. The first 4, I've never heard of them. I've never seen them
Now,
before.
it's worth noting that we did poll the audience across different platforms to determine what some of these were. And ironically, Ian submitted a list, and I think 4 of these were on there.
3, I think.
3? Okay. So, in this episode, we will not only be discussing these monsters, but we're also going to delve into the myriad of different ways that you can use them in your D&D campaigns. Now, for me, we're going to talk lore, but then we're going to really touch on the mechanics that they have and how we can get the most out of them. So, this monster that we're going to talk about first, the Magman, is one of my favorites.
And I do want to mention, I did encounter these playing Princess of the Apocalypse.
Yes, because you do, that's very elemental based, right?
Yes.
So, but it's worth noting that not everyone runs the official content like we do too. So, and that's a pretty common experience. Do you run official content, or do you run homebrew and maybe some modules?
Second one.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk Magman first. So if you don't know, the Magmans are tiny little fire elemental spirits that are bound into physical form by magic. Now, they view kind of flammable objects as sort of kindling for their grand conflagration, which I think is just awesome lore. And only the magical control exuded by the summoner really keeps them from just burning everything to ash. Like,
Yeah.
they get a very much a giggles and enjoyment out of burning things, right?
They do.
They have a propensity for fire and havoc, so it's good that they're under control. What happens is when they are not under control.
Yeah.
So, for me, this monster has already got some cool flavor, right?
Yes.
It's a low-level monster. I think it's a CR half.
Yep.
CR 1.5.
Which means you can introduce elementals right out the gate to your party.
Oh, yes. And a bigger headache, they are essentially resistant to non-magical physical attacks. And strip immune to fire.
Oh,
Go figure.
that's a rough start. It's a really rough start, because guess what? The most common cantrip of spellcasters is at level 1.
Firebolt.
Firebolt.
Oh, it gets worse, especially for you melee characters out there.
How so?
When they die, they have a death burst.
Oh my god, yes.
They explode.
They go boom in your face. Now, when you're fighting a goblin, you slay the goblin, goblin falls, nothing exciting. Doesn't have resistance to weapons, doesn't have immunity to fire. But this little half CR will be more dangerous than any goblin that you can expect. And what's worse, as Ian just mentioned, the kaboom at the end when you destroy one.
Mm-hmm.
It's dangerous. What do you think happens when it goes kaboom, Brandon?
And it's anything within
You
10 feet.
probably have to make a deck save or
Yep.
get screwed
Well-
with fire damage.
Beyond that.
Beyond that,
Because already you're going to surprise the players, right? They're not. Most of them aren't going to be expecting a kaboom in their face when they melee attack.
Yep.
What do you think else would happen because of this thing bursting into flames?
surrounding objects will catch on fire.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
And at a half CR, that seems kind of OP.
It does seem like that, doesn't it?
But they have 9 HP, so...
Yeah, they go down in one hit, but going down in one hit most cases and blowing up in your face is phenomenal.
I'm actually now picturing Evil Wizard literally hurling these things at the players.
So the thing I want to touch on is if you're fighting a group of these and they're all close together, they're immune to fire, so they've got no fear of it. But if they bring in all the melee characters close together, a chain of events can really rock the party. You can wipe a party. You can wipe a level 2 party with these very quickly, without even having very many.
Oh my god!
But
Or maybe instead of like an enemy spellcaster whipping them at people, they intentionally cluster them around their enemies and then hit the air with a non-fire area spell attack.
oh, I like that.
Detonating multiple Magman at once plus their spell.
Ouch.
You know,
So, go ahead.
So you know what I think is funny? It has to do with their other ability, and
Which is?
What's it called? Ignited Illumination,
Oh yeah.
which I think is hilarious because under senses it says it's got dark vision up to 60 feet,
Right.
but under Ignited Illumination it can light itself on fire to shed bright light up to 10 feet and dim light 10 more feet,
Yep.
which I think is hilarious because they have dark vision, but they don't need it.
Like carrying torches.
But they're on fire, so...
𝗕𝗂 says walking kamikaze bombs. Absolutely.
Yep.
One of my favorite monsters in Final Fantasy is the bomb, just because it's such a terrible thing. But I want to go back to what Brandon pointed out.
Yeah.
They burn things to the ground. So a village is attacked by 2 of these. 2 of them. A rift is open. 2 of these things are running around lighting everything on fire. And what do you think the players are going to do right out the gate? The characters are going to do?
Kill him.
Yeah.
Boom.
So do you think they're going to think, hey, this thing is dangerous. We should look up on it before we just attack it? Probably not. I would say a safe Arcana check for a wizard or spellcaster might be a good way to potentially feed knowledge that they explode. But if they don't go out of their way to learn that, and they fight this thing in the middle of the city, buildings are going to burn, potential innocents are going to be destroyed, and who do you think the locals are going to blame?
You!
They are totally going to blame the characters, because the adventurers should know better. They should know better, right?
Yeah, should. But they don't always.
But they don't always.
No.
All right, so the Magman is one of my personal favorites. There's a lot you can do. It's early on elementals, and they are fantastic, powerful tools. Now, if you really want to get fancy, like I do, nothing says the Magman has to be lava.
No.
You touched on different elements. You can change it to any element you want. An acid min, right?
Well,
Hydromin.
Well,
those things.
I do think that there are other elemental equivalents that already exist anyway, but...
Hey,
Hydromin.
we are not talking about Mephits today. We are talking about Magmans, okay?
I'm just saying.
But I know where you're going with the Mephits, and I agree Mephits are pretty cool. But I see those a lot too. All right, so I think that'll do it for the Magman. No?
Their melee attack is far worse than I thought it was.
Yeah, 2d6 fire.
It's 2d6 fire damage. Great sword.
No, if the target is a creature or a flammable object, it ignites until the
Boom.
creature takes an action to douse the fire
If it doesn't, it burns slowly.
Oh, yes,
at the end of each of its turns.
Yeah,
So-
too.
So it's a CR half. The players, what's the highest HP a player 1 character probably has?
12 on average, probably.
12?
12 on average?
1d12, that's the highest hit.
1d12 is the highest, so you assume +2 is pretty typical. 14.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
thing can potentially down even a barbarian in a round.
Yep.
At a half CR. That is brutal. God, I love Magmans.
Yep.
Anyways, this is why part of the reason people think some of my monsters are unbalanced, because I use monsters like this as a template. All right, Ian, would you like to tell us about our next monster?
Well, this one's kind of a catch-all, but the Mordrens, which are beings of absolute law that adhere to a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And they do kind of have like a hive mind, so go figure. They inhabit the plane of Mechanicus and tend to its eternally revolving gears. and their existence is like a clockwork routine of perfect order.
Yes.
And it's worth noting that Mordrens are actually kind of a catch-all term because there's actually
Yes,
5
there's-
creatures.
There's multiple different
Okay,
types
is
of
that like-
Modron.
Is that like a mind player?
No, it's like little box constructs.
Yep.
They're little robots, basically.
Yep.
Like Wally's?
Yes.
Yes. So, Ian, what is first of all, the Modrons are awesome because like every 170 years,
Yep.
Primus might be 17 years. I don't know, 170, 117. Anyways,
100.
these things just get sent out like drones across the multiverse and just overrun planes of existence. That already is an amazing campaign hook.
Oh yeah.
It starts off with your party finding 1 or 2 or 3, and the next thing you know, there's an entire invasion.
Oh, and the fun part too is if you kill it of the Modrons, one in the ring below it's automatically promoted to it, and then the new one's created at the lowest level.
Yes. So that actually touches in the hierarchy for the lore. So every time they get destroyed, they slowly move up.
Oh,
so the longer
289 years.
289 years. Thank you for looking that up. I knew it was a couple hundred years. I wasn't sure exactly how many though. So that already for lore purposes is amazing. I also think these are really cool because many of them have multiple hands, and so they get 3, 4, and 5 attacks at really low CRs.
Yep.
Oh.
Which is brutal.
Ooh, and also fun too. Anytime you kill a Modren, its body disintegrates.
Oh yes, no evidence.
There's no proof.
Well, and actually, I think that makes for a perfect assassin bot because it can basically just stab itself and gone once it's done the deed, and nobody can connect it to the Primus
Yeah.
or whoever took control of it or hotwired it.
It's like a music.
So, once again, I want to touch on the core feature that the fact that they can attack 3, 4, and 5 times in some cases. I think there's 1 or 2 that doesn't have it, but
Yeah.
the majority of them have some sort of multi-attack, which makes them really great for grappling. But also, even though I think they got a weak strength,
Yep.
the fact that you can deliver so many blows is terrifying to a player. What
Yeah,
are these, like CR1, 2?
Well, the Pentadrone, which is the highest one listed, is CR2, but it can attack 5 times.
Yes.
And it can release a paralysis gas in the cone.
Yes.
Paralysis
and
gas?
the paralysis gas knocks you unconscious if you're poisoned.
Well, then
Well,
grappling
paralyzed,
doesn't
actually.
matter.
Paralyzed, I'm sorry. What?
And then grappling doesn't matter, does it? Because
No.
if you can't move, it's like...
They just drag you around. And I think that's what makes these little buggers interesting.
And that can punch you 5 times.
So, as a second level character, this thing pops up, pops you once, attacks you again, attacks you again,
How much damage does it do?
attacks you again, attacks you again. Like,
Well, that one,
is that the one that's got 5?
the one is like,
CR2?
yeah, it's plus 4 to hit and does a 1d6 plus 2 damage, but that's still 5 attacks.
That's 5
1d6
attacks at
plus
1d6.
1d6 plus 2.
1d6 plus 2. That is a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And potentially could be...
And the one below it, the Quadrone, is equipped with a short bow, which it can attack with 4 times.
Can it fly? Is that the one that can fly?
Yes.
So it can fly and shoot 4 times. So what makes these things interesting is the fact that they can attack so many times at such a low CR, which I think is great. Brandon, what do you think about these?
They sound like a Revelations creature. It's like, this is the ultimate plan. Let them go.
Yep. But yeah, he starts off as monodrones, which can chuck javelins, and goes up to the pentadrone.
Okay.
at least as released. I think past editions had higher tiered ones, but hey.
So there's another thing that I think makes these really cool. Ian mentioned that they have a hive mind.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, it means they're all connected.
Yep.
So what do you think happens when you beat one?
They all know.
So this is where I think the Modron is most interesting. They all have now fought the player characters, which means they know what?
They know how to fight you.
They know how to fight them. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. They know who the healer is. They know who the person is that can wipe them out with a single bust of fire.
Oh, and it's also worth noting that none of these, because of that nature, can't be compelled to act in a manner contrary to its nature or its instructions.
Oh, surprise, surprise. No mind control for you.
If you hover one of these things into a anti-magic field, does that block the hive mind?
No,
It does not?
it's not magic.
It's not magic.
It's just
a character feature. I feel like Justin's going to throw these to us in Ravnica. We'll see.
Dsenia says that the art in the monster manual is actually surprisingly adorable.
Yep.
I'm not sure he's talking about this or the Magman, though.
I think she's talking about these.
𝗖𝗂𝗃 is making a good point. Is hitting somebody paralyzed an automatic crit?
Yeah, they're incapacitated.
So now they paralyzing breath you and get 5 attacks on you that are automatic crits.
That'll add up fast.
You're gonna die quick. He was our strongest barbarian. We told him not to run in. So the last thing I want to touch on before we move on to the next one is the fact that these are kind of like excellent servants. So you could toss these as like little servant droids that the players try to pull one over when the guy's gone, and you're never gonna expect the thing with a little duster cleaning everything as being a thing that can destroy you. Because as 𝗖𝗂𝗃 pointed out, these things are adorable if you look at the artwork.
Yep.
So
I couldn't find it, so
yeah, that's all right. So
well, that's because like Mordrens are like a class of creatures, not an individual creature. So each one has a different name. So like look at Monodrone, for example.
Monodrone or Pentadrone.
Yep.
Whatever. All right, so that'll do it for the Mordrens. Brandon, would you like to tell us about the other one that I don't know how to pronounce?
The 𝗖𝗃𝗃.
Is that how you say it? The 𝗕𝗃𝗃?
𝗕𝗃𝗃.
It's better than I would have guessed.
That's my guess.
I can tell you in a moment.
𝗿𝗿𝗴𝘂𝗀𝗃. The UGH is a 𝗖𝗃𝗃.
That's kind of what it looks like.
𝗖𝗃𝗃.
And 𝗖𝗃𝗃 is a grotesque, bulbous creature born along. Does that say born?
𝗿𝗿𝗃𝗃.
Yeah.
𝗿𝗿𝗃𝗃.
Fuck Google.
Actually, it's D&D Beyond.
Does it say powered by Google?
No.
Okay, fine. Whatever. No. Is a bulbous creature born along on 3 sturdy legs. Its eyes and nose set along a vine-like stalk and like that snakes from the top of its bloated body.
Yep.
Ew.
Yeah,
2 rubbery tentacles end in spiky leaf-like appendages that the 𝗖𝗃𝗃, that's what I'm calling it, uses to shovel food into its gaping maw.
And
I'm just say maw.
Those things are fugly.
And they're scavengers.
Yeah.
You have a photo, right? What's that look like?
Yeah, so these things are pretty interesting. I really like this monster because it has a unique ability.
It looks like a graboid pig.
It does, doesn't it? It's a graboid with tentacles.
Graboids have
And
tentacles.
legs.
So the creature actually has a relatively low intelligence, but it can communicate telepathically.
And it's a CR5.
And I think that is very interesting. Because it can't really speak words, but it can send like images. So you know the first thing that comes to mind of this thing is it sending mental images of it devouring you before you even fight it. Like you get these telepathic images in your head of dangling by a tentacle from its maw as it's crunching on your head. Like, would that force an intimidation check?
It's limited telepathy, which means that this form of telepathy doesn't allow the receiving creature to telepathically respond.
You can't tell back. So all you can see is these nightmarish images popping up in your head as you're about to deal with it.
Yep. And they can attack 3 times.
Simple messages and images.
So they actually have a very other unique powers. What do you guys think about the telepathy strategy?
If you want to be eaten, don't say anything. Okay.
I think they're cool because not only they're big, right? They're large. Are they large or huge? I don't remember.
They are large.
They're large. So they're pretty big creatures, but they have these massive tentacles.
Yep.
And
their bite.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Well, let's start with the bite. Why don't you tell us what the bite does? I know it does damage. What is the other side effect?
Well, first off, it has 3 attacks, 1 bite, 2 tentacles.
Okay.
Yeah. The bite. Well, if you're bitten by this thing, you have to roll a DC 15 con check, and if you fail, you're poisoned for 24 hours.
What does the poison do? Because I think this is fascinating.
Well, first off, you get the poison conditions, which means
sucks
because disadvantage on attacks,
mm-hmm.
and you have to make a save every 24 hours. And at the time you fail, your max HP goes down.
Literally, if you get bit by this thing, you might just die eventually.
Yep.
Isn't that horrible?
Oh.
You just die. You lose hit points, and that means every day you're weak. Weaker and weaker and weaker, potentially.
And every time it attacks with its tentacles, you're automatically grappled.
That's not even the worst of it.
No!
So once it's got you grappled, it has one more feature that is terrifying.
A tentacle slam.
Yes, it literally doesn't have to roll once it's got you. It can just slam you into anything. I like the idea of using its tentacles, which have a 10-foot reach, to slam into other player characters.
Actually, it does say it. Yes, 2 creatures grapple and slam them into each other. So
I love it. I love it. And think about the vision of this. This thing's got a gaping maw. It's sending you horrifying visions of it devouring you and having you excrement out the other end. On top of that, it's flailing your player characters around and smashing them into each other, into houses, into the ground.
And if you do get hit, you have to make a con save. If you fail that, you become stunned.
You're stunned.
You go,
That is just a brutal, brutal monster. And this is another example of one of the monsters that I think, first of all, I've only seen in 2 campaigns, one of them which I ran because it was in the other one I was in. It wasn't a campaign, it was a short adventure. But
this monster's so cool, I'm putting it in my campaign.
yeah, but it's another one I think is a little stronger than its CR would indicate, I think.
Yep, it's nightmare fuel. As
Yes,
Delson, yes.
Nightmare fuel. Brandon, do you have any other thoughts on this?
Not in particular, no.
No.
It's just terrifying.
I want to make it clear that the nightmare mental images isn't a mechanic it has.
No.
It just says it sends telepathic images to somebody.
Yeah, simple messages or images.
For me, that's a way to leverage that mechanic it has, even though it's a beast creature, which I think it's a monstrosity.
Especially if players don't see that coming, and then the DM starts saying, "Okay, you suddenly have a flash and image of you just being ripped apart by thorny spikes in every direction from chains, and you have no idea why," and then everything's back to normal.
Yeah.
Like, what was that about? You're about to find out.
And this doesn't even touch on the fact that when it has its tentacle and slam ability, if there's nearby hazards, I'm thinking spike growth or spikes or thorns or acid pools,
deep fry,
just like dragging them into it.
Flavoring.
And the last thing about this,
I like to clean my food first before I eat it.
oh god, just sending you images of it like dipping you in, and you think it's trying to clean you off, but it's just dipping you in like a sauce, like a chicken nugget.
What if it sent images of like to one of the magic users, and the magic user ends up thinking it's like, oh, this is a premonition type thing. It's like, hey, there's something special behind this door. You see a door and you see a golden glow coming from around it.
Using it as a lure.
Yeah, and they open the door and they just pull them in.
Genius.
Yep.
Like as they walk near a door, they send this telepathic image of things that might appeal.
Yep.
It's like a mimic kind of in that point, making them think it's one thing, but it's not. Ooh, that is genius. I love that.
I also like the entries too that says that some evil beings use them as garbage disposals. But also points out they don't get them well fed. They might turn on their master.
Dulcinia's got a really great point. Dude, if this thing likes to hang out with garbage,
yes,
it's got to reek too. Wouldn't that be an AoE status effect? I totally can see you giving this the stench effect that the troglodyte has.
Yeah.
Easy. All right, let's move on to the next monster, the 4th of our 5 lists today, the Periton.
These are weird.
If you don't know what the Periton is, shame on you. Secondly, although the monstrous carnivore feeds on pretty much any creature, it prefers humanoids, especially elves, half-elves, and humans. These things hunt them. They hunt. Now, when it kills a humanoid, the Periton rips out its prey's heart and takes it back to its nest to be devoured.
Yep.
That is terrifying. If you don't know what a Periton is,
like
it's basically a giant bird.
Basically a medium-sized bird with like a stag head on it.
Yeah, like antlers and stuff.
It's got a lion's mane too.
Yeah, it's very cool and it's bright colored, which means it's very pretty. So people will stop and stare at it, which is the first point I want to touch on this thing. It's very brightly colored and looks very pretty, like a parrot.
Yep.
So I can totally see it using that and trying to pull the kind of the pretending to be adorable and cute before it swoops down and flies off with you. Like,
it does have a dive bonus action.
And that actually is one of the core mechanics, I think, that make this such an interesting monster.
Not bonus action.
Anybody that knows me knows that I like to grapple players and fly off with them.
Yep.
Yeah. And in fact, this just happened in one of our patron games last month, where I was running one of my friends swoop down fighting illusionary Peritons that cast illusions and tried to fly off with them. So they had to stop their adventure and chase after the one flying off. Though halfway through, they're like, do we really need him?
Yeah. But basically, when this thing dives and moves at least 30 feet before it attacks you, it adds an additional 2d8 to its melee attacks. Which can attack twice, by the way. One's a gore, one's a talon.
What CR is it, 2?
Dive bomb!
Yep.
And here
CR2.
comes the giant fist!
Oh, and it gets worse. It has flyby, which means it can fly to you, attack you, then move away without
No
provoking.
op attacks.
Yes.
It's worth noting, though, it's not limited to just one. So
Nope.
the rules of grappling. So first off, you get the bonus damage, but if you swoop down and grapple something, you can grapple 2 creatures, even as medium, and it doesn't increase the deficiency of movement speed. Having 2 creature grappled is still half movement speed.
Yep.
So that means it can swoop down with its talons, grab 2 characters, and fly off with them, with nobody getting an op attack.
And I can drop them at once. Which is what eagles actually do.
Yeah, they like to tenderize their meat ahead of time, so they fly up, drop you really high until you splatter. Dude, could you imagine the lead up to that? Just seeing like old splotches of dried blood throughout your travel. Then,
I mean, it's a very efficient way to kill something, too.
oh, for sure. What do you think, Brandon?
That's a real world thing.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's what he was saying. Eagles do that.
Especially at the piers, like seagulls will grab clams, fly.
Let them break,
Just
crack
watch
them
them shatter.
open.
Or that's how
Yeah.
eagles crack turtles open, too.
But see, the reason I like this monster is because it's not something that's typically going to just stick around and fight.
Nope.
So it leads the players into doing what?
Hunting them down.
Chasing them down, right? And fighting them in their territory, assuming they can react fast enough to keep up. With a CR2, they're not particularly got a lot on their
But they do like to keep their nests in high places.
yeah, like sides of cliffs are perfect. I mean, they're going to drop their food from a high height to,
And they, in a sense, they like to set up near villages
of course.
for prey, so which means the villagers might hire adventurers to get rid of these things.
I mean, hell, if you have a party member who's out hunting for rations or whatever,
Mhm.
if they roll a low perception check, you could easily say that you see an elk. There's an elk wandering around. You want to shoot it? Like, yeah, I shoot it. And then wings just burst out and flies up. And it's like, what the hell was that? And then it comes around and grabs your barbarian.
I
and leaves.
totally think you just stumbled on one of the best strategies. Somebody using a nature check or a survival check to gather resources just disappears. And then the players, other characters have to go out and find the tracks and see that the tracks just end.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, there is so much you can do with this. It's just awesome. So, all right, last monster. Ian, do you want us to tell us about the Pseudo Dragon?
Absolutely. Pseudo Dragons are really fun. They're elusive and they dwell in quiet places, making its home in the hell of trees and caves. With its red-brown scales and horns and a mouth filled with sharp teeth, they resemble a tiny red dragon, but it's playful.
Yes, I love these. You only ever see these in your games as familiars.
Yep.
But usually it's by the players, right? Have you guys run into one where one of the NPCs had one? Because typically that was what you would think, right?
Yep.
That you'd run into an NPC. I think these are a really good tool that's great for making your game feel fantastical. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because they're tiny little magical dragons flying around, and it's a really great way to make dragons appear in your story and campaign very easily. Like right out the gate, you can have these things floating around.
And they resist magic, and they have limited telepathy.
But they can't speak.
Nope.
I think they use the whole mental image thing.
Yep.
Which
Or emotions.
to me is a really big push, because I loved Aragon. So when he's got his little baby dragon, she's only sending mental images, and they remind me of cats. If you look at the lore, they're very much like cats. They don't want anything to do with anybody if they don't have to.
Okay. And they've but wait, there's more. They have a bite and they have a stinger. And the way the poison works actually works like dragon poison.
Was that the one that can knock them
So
unconscious?
it works like dragon
Yes.
poison?
Yeah, I think
Oh, yeah, it
if
says
you
right
fail
there.
by
By
5
5
or more.
Yep.
So that's a pretty cool feature in and of itself too. So
Which means a smart player, if they have one of these as a pet or familiar, could like knock these things for poison.
oh, I love that. Use the poisoner's kit.
Yeah.
Wait, do you got to kill the pseudo dragon?
Why
Or
would you?
just milk it?
No, it's the same thing as like when they collect with rattlesnakes.
Yep.
Oh,
You put on a
I
plunger
love
and
that.
it pushes into the vial. That's a neat idea.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. That's a good one, Ian. The reason I wanted to include this is because to me this is something that falls under the Dungeons and Dragons, but I understand not introducing big dragons during early on campaigns,
Yeah.
but having these things just be messengers or delivery tools should be something that can really bring your fantasy scenarios to life.
Yep.
They're obviously not meant to do outright combat, though their stinger can be a bit of a pain if you fail by 5 or more. But for the most part, these are fun little things you can include. They like to go to like taverns and stuff and drink. Did you know that?
No.
That was one of the lore pieces that I read, that they like to just go and hang out in taverns. I don't know why. Like, it didn't say why. It just said they like to go to taverns, but they hate people. So now I'm just envisioning this little thing stalking around and peeking around the corner at people and just giving them a dirty look and then running around.
There's always a flow of money.
Maybe. That would make sense. They like to clutch onto gold coins and start their own little hordes, which instead of a horde is just one coin, and they just protect it, but they're always looking for a prettier, shiner one and trade it. I love it.
And I think that baby dragon meme, whose horde is one coin, but people in the market attempt from the coin, the dragon comes with it.
That's awesome. I like that. All right. Overall, what did you guys think of this list?
Again, the first 4, I'd never heard of them. I'm going to use them now, though.
Well, I hope that's what everyone feels like. You know, that's the point, right? Is that these monsters are really fun, really cool, and they've got a variety of different uses. Not just trying to kill your players, but that's definitely the benefit. Like I think somebody 𝗿𝗂𝗓𝗂 mentioned, or somebody mentioned in the comments about garbage disposals. Can you imagine having one of these 𝗿𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗃 in just a basement of an inn that just there's a hole that they just throw things in? And that's all it does. It just devours everything. That's the thing about D&D, is you can make the world fantastical by using monsters in a unique way, right?
Yeah.
For me, in one of the adventures I wrote for our extraordinary expeditions, the harpies were using gelatinous cubes as garbage disposals.
Yep.
They had little pits in them. Not only is it a trap, but they would just throw their leftovers in there that they didn't want.
Here you go.
So, 𝗿𝗂𝗓𝗂𝗧, the Periton is definitely my players on the way to a dwarven city. Yes, yes. All right, I think that'll do it for our main topics. Did you have any other comments? I don't know if I...
Not really.
All right. Before we move on to our unearthed tips and tricks, as always, we have a plug coming from our generous sponsor, 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝐴DEMY. That's us. So I want to let everyone know that we...
I brought my shirt today.
Yes,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, took 3 times, but
2.
we got through there. So 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝐴DEMY has just released our new Classics bundle. What's in this Classics bundle, you ask? Well, our Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1. 50, 25? I don't remember. Lots of 25 encounters, monsters, magic items, DM tips, player tips, so much stuff. It's popular. It's a bestseller. Go get it. In fact, all these are best-selling. Then we've got
that volume 1. I'm actually kind of afraid we stopped at volume 1.
Right. Well, we actually did 2, but
I rest my case.
Our fantastic terrain, which if you like your world to be exotic and have encounters be more engaging by having battles on an area that's infused with barbarian blood that causes everyone to gain rage benefits and lose control, yeah, that's a fantastic terrain.
Yep.
Or how about something that heals your party a little quicker, or maybe it infuses spell casting of necromancy, making it cast at higher levels while you stand on top of sacrificial ritual area. Makes for an awesome boss encounter, because then they gotta move them. Challenge accepted. I love challenge accepted. I love skill challenges.
Yep.
Anybody that knows that I run these all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that they're a lot of fun. Skill challenges are a nice systematic approach to the more non-combat sort of scenarios in a nice structured format.
I'm actually kind of proud of the one I submitted for that one.
You did a very good job. That was the healing the healing somebody one, right?
Yeah.
Somebody was injured and they had to patch them up.
But the arrow was enchanted where it reacts negatively to magic.
Yep, so they couldn't just use cure wounds.
Exactly.
So it forced medicine checks and stuff. That was a really good one.
This is our way of taking one of the better features of past editions and bringing it to 5th edition.
Absolutely, for sure.
Because it's not in 5e.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder. I'm starting to see a lot of things from some of my favorite editions show up in 5e. So, of course, you also get weapon perks.
Yeah.
Weapon perks is amazing. It is hands down our biggest seller. Did we just recently hit Mithril bestseller?
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
That's
amazing. So thank you to everyone that picked that bad boy up.
Less than 1% of products hit Mithril.
Less than 1% of products hit Mithril. Think about that.
Wow.
So
That's like being top 1% on OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
but better.
D&D After Hours. So, if they don't know what weapon perks is, we believe that some of the the mundane items are too similar. In
They're
fact,
too
some of
mundane.
them are exactly the same.
You know,
So
like
we
the
started to
long
give them.
sword and the battle axe.
I don't know. I was thinking
Yeah,
pikes.
Something.
And,
They're
and
both
halberds
slashing,
and
both
stuff.
1d8 or something.
Yeah.
But one costs more for no apparent reason.
What the fuck?
You can't say that on this platform. Yeah, we're not too worried about Twitch kicking us off. All one viewers that watch from there. We're pushing the YouTube these days. Anyways, comes with weapon perks, which I love. If you've been following us on social media, you know that we're working on equipment perks. It is a supplement that not only offers weapon perks, but armor perks as well. So
That
please,
one's kind of hard to do.
yeah, it is. It's very, and there's a lot of back and forth. And I do thank everyone who's engaging. Next, it also includes fantastic feats. I love feats. Everyone loves feats. Feats are fantastic. They add to customization.
I have
We
like two
took-
of them.
Okay, yeah, he does, but maybe not before he leaves today. One less. Fantastic Feats take some of our favorites from prior editions. It is certainly focused less on combat and more on utility feats than some of the combat ones. So if that's something that tickles your dice, definitely check it out. It's honestly at $29.95. You save over 30% on the retail price of all of them. Please consider checking it out at rebrand.ly/classic bundle. Sorry, rebrand.ly/classics bundle. There's an S in there.